Hi, welcome to the latest England pre-brief, looking ahead to the round of 16 tie between England and Slovakia, a game which will be taking place in Gelsenkirchen Sunday, kicks off at 5 British time, and it will of course be live on talkSPORT with the build-up starting at 4. I'm delighted to say that looking ahead to the game with me will be Stuart Pearce. Stuart, let's start by looking back at the group stage. 5 points from 3 games, a solid if unspectacular return, but the bottom line in tournament football is England have done enough to earn the right, winning the group, to end up in this, so say, easier side of the draw. How would you assess the level of performance over those 3 games?
To be honest with you, you'd have to say you're disappointed with the level of performance. We were felt coming into the tournament that the performances will be better. We expected the results to be pretty good. We expected England to win the group, which they've done. I think we've just been a little bit underwhelmed by 1 or 2 aspects of the team play. You know, the left-hand side of the team has been a little bit, aside from the last game, a little bit underwhelming in regard to deliveries and stuff like that into the box. We've been relying on Saka's side of the pitch a little bit readily on the first 2 games. The energy levels have been a bit lacking, certainly for the second game. But I thought, probably looking at 6 halves of football, the last half that we played was probably the one that buoyed us up the most.
So there's just been the one change so far made by Gareth Southgate for the 3rd game, which was Conor Gallagher coming in to replace Trent Alexander-Arnold. Plenty of speculation before that game that there should be more, could be more, and indeed you advocated that you would like to see a little bit more by the way of experimentation.
Yeah.
A line's now drawn under the group stage going into the knockout stages. Now's the time for all experimentation to cease. You've really got to go pretty much with your gut feeling for what your strongest 11 is going to be and try and stick to it for up to the 4 remaining games. Is that the way that you see it?
Yeah, I would. I think when we talk about experimentation going into probably the last game, and I was quite vocal in respect to maybe I would have made probably 3 changes at least to the team that had played the first couple of games. I think we got experimentation from the substitutes bench. I think the likes of Mainoo come on and done extremely well. Certainly Cole Palmer did. And even in the small shot that we got of Gordon, I think he done extremely well as well. So there was 3 individuals there that come and had an impact in the game. That would give the manager a massive lift, I think, you know. He's got something to think about in regard to does Mainoo start in preference to Conor Gallagher. I think that will be the way forward. We are in knockout football now, there's no doubt. No experiments anymore. The best players are on the pitch. Whatever Gareth deems as his best team will be on the pitch. The beauty of what we've got from the last game, Jim, I think, is a couple of players have impacted from the subs bench that Gareth knows now that he can probably trust and they can give the team a lift.
So that's Palmer and Gordon. We'll come on to those in a moment. Let's start. You talked about Kobbie Mainoo. Let's start then by looking at whether Mainoo will be alongside Declan Rice. It seems as though that will be the case. What is it about Kobbie Mainoo's performance the other day and how he complements Declan that you think is the best combination for England in the centre of midfield going into this game?
Well, what I'll do, let me start off with talking about why probably Trent Alexander was given the nod from the offset and played the first couple of games. We were hoping he'd be able to deliver balls from deep lying areas for runners in behind. That wasn't the case. We didn't have enough balls in behind, and we certainly didn't have enough runners in those 2 games. So that was enough for him to lose his place in the team. The team also lacked energy. So Conor Gallagher was gone to from the subs bench and then given a starting berth to give us that energy, drive, get us on the front foot. So we talked pre-tournament about different players with different skill sets doing different jobs. There's 2 that have done a different job there. Now we've gone to Kobbie Mainoo that's come off the bench for 45 minutes and give us a real lift in doing, I would say, almost a jack of all trades. He knitted things together. He didn't give a lot away. He got in advanced areas and was a threat to the opposition in and around the box in regard to his passing and stuff like that. And also as well, he floated around that midfield. Wasn't just an individual that's going to play alongside Declan Rice. So I also feel as though he could free Declan up to be a little bit more forthcoming in pushing forward. So we've had a couple of situations there where we had 3 midfield players now to partner Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham, and they've all had different skill sets. And Mainoo, I think, will get the nod this time round. I'll be astounded if he doesn't.
Now, further up the field, there was a tactical tweak for that last game.
Yeah.
The first two games, England had been concentrating on attacking almost exclusively down the right-hand side with Bukayo Saka. And Phil Foden playing in a sort of half position, coming in off the left-hand side to try and get close to Jude Bellingham. And there was a little bit of fluidity and movement between those two. Now, it was noticeable in the last game against Slovenia that England attacked much more down the left than they did the right, and they were doubling up. And Bellingham and Foden, if you look at their heat maps, it wasn't clear which one was actually playing on the left and which one was playing inside. So did they get the balance right in that last game, or have they overcompensated, do you think, and it was too much going the other way and not bringing the best out of Saka as a result?
I think the Saka issue, if we can deal with that first, I think Saka probably didn't have the impact he had in the game, and I was a little bit critical of Kyle Walker's impact on Saka's ability. I thought they were near enough on that side of the pitch, a 2v2 scenario. So right back, right winger, left back, left winger. I think Kyle Walker could have been more aggressive in his running, more aggressive in his passing and following his passing to help Saka out. He didn't do that. He played from behind. He prompted from behind in the main, and that left Saka sort of one-on-one or, midfield players doubling up, and it nullified his impact a little bit. The plus side of that is, I think Gareth looked at the team and the imbalance that the team actually showed. You made a great point. 2 crosses in the game against Denmark from the left-hand side. Totally not good enough. I think Gareth looked at that and looked at the energy of the team, the introduction of Gallagher. And what he's done, he's worked a numbers game on the left-hand side to improve it. What do we mean by that? Foden held his width. He had prompting from Trippier. He also had Harry Kane coming across to offer his services. And he had Jude Bellingham. 4 players were basically up against 3 of the opposition. We had a numbers overload in that area. And it bore fruit. The disallowed goal certainly was one point in case. And the interaction and changeover, as you rightly pointed out, Bellingham swapping with Foden, and Foden coming and playing inside, Bellingham playing on the outside of it. I don't know whether he's looked at that and thought, I need more from the left-hand side, per se, or alternatively, the opposition are weak on the right-hand side, I'm going to overload it. I don't know. Only Gareth knows that and his coaching staff. But whichever it was, we got more from the left-hand side, which was much better, in my opinion.
So this time last week we were talking about how do you get the best out of Phil Foden. Now it seems to be how do you get the best out of Jude Bellingham, because his best 45 minutes of the tournament undoubtedly were the first 45 minutes against Serbia.
Yeah.
And his performances have levelled off and then gone significantly south since then. So what needs to change to get Jude more involved in the kind of positions that he wants to be?
Well, I don't think it's the kind of positions he wants to be. He's been short of energy and full of frustration are the 2 emotions I think I'm seeing from him in these 2 games subsequently from the game that he was arguably England's best player. So he needs to unlock that a little bit, that frustration that he's in. I think the frustration comes from when you set your standards so high as a player, when you don't achieve them, there is that frustration in there, And there was a couple of times in the game the other day he was put on his backside by the opposition and just sort of sat there for a couple of seconds. You can't do that in at this standard of football or any standard, Listen, I think he'll start the next game, but in all honesty, with the 2 games that he's had for his country so far, he'll be fortunate to keep his place in the team, and he'll know that, I would think. And more importantly, he'll see players coming off the bench and having the impact that they have in Palmer and Gordon that are going to put his position under threat. Now, there's an evolution in football that suggests, and in team games, the team you start the tournament with will never ever be the team that wins the final for you. It just doesn't work that way. Suspensions, injuries, form, you name it. And he'll know full well that if he doesn't have a decent game in the next game, he might be under the pump a little bit from those others that have come off the bench and impact a game. I hope not, because I think for our chances of winning this tournament, he's going to be integral. But he'll know full well he's got to do better.
But when we were looking ahead to the Slovenia game, you were saying that perhaps it might be the right time just to pull him out for a game. You're not saying that now. You wouldn't pick your starting 11 without Jude Bellingham for the Slovakia game.
I wouldn't, Jim. But what I would do, it would be on my mind We talked about early substitutions. It will be on my mind if I saw, to the eye, that I felt as though early in the game, and I'm talking first half here, that he's not getting an impact within the game. I think I've got a duty of care of some of those other boys that I've left out that have come on to the pitch and played extremely well in the last game and give the team a lift. I might have a duty of care to play one of them sooner rather than later.
Okay, so there are 3 other positions that you wouldn't necessarily say are up for grabs, but are talking points in terms of selection. Let's look at them each very quickly. First of all, right wing, Saka, or on the strength of his cameo the other night, Palmer.
I would probably edge on picking Saka. I think he's done enough in the first 2 games to warranty what he's done. I think there was mitigating circumstances why he didn't play so well. That, for me, as a manager, will be a conversation with Kyle Walker, saying it's not good enough just to shove the ball from 40 yards away into Saka's feet and then stand where you are. You're going to have to make overlapping runs to make his life a little bit easier to get turned and go and take players on. So I think it would be worth his place, not solely on his performance in the last game, but what he's done in the previous 2 and the fact that I think the fullback needs to help him a bit more.
There are also been calls for Anthony Gordon to play as an orthodox left winger.
Yeah.
We're not playing with an orthodox left winger at the moment, obviously, but to change the balance of attack, maybe move Foden in, play Bellingham deeper, and play Gordon on the left.
That's something I wouldn't be totally against, to be fair. I think it would give us a lift in some ways. I don't think it'll happen for this game. I think he'll stick with probably that starting lineup, the only addition being Mainoo, potentially. But it wouldn't worry me at all if he decided to make changes, and those were the changes, because I've always felt I don't get washed away too much with the starting 11. I don't think it's that important in modern day football anymore, and the longer the game goes on and evolves, the less and less it'll become important, and the quicker substitutions have been made. Gareth knows he's got a double handful sat behind him. If he leaves Saka out, if he leaves Palmer out, if he leaves Gordon out, if he leaves Bellingham out, he knows that Bellingham will be chomping at the bit to get on and say, hey, you shouldn't be leaving me out.
So the other change that we saw late on last night, it kind of, in the last game, and it kind of got lost because everyone was looking at Cole Palmer and the impact that he made, was that fullback, where Trippier went off, Walker went to the left, and Trent came on the right-hand side. It was interesting seeing a couple of predicted formations online. Some people speculating that might be how Gareth goes. And you mentioned in commentary at the time that it was an interesting experiment, that you thought that Gareth was maybe just having a look at it in running to see what it looked like. What did you think of that?
Well, I've done similar types of things myself as a manager. So, everything's thought out what you do. And it looked as though, oh, hang on, Trips needs a break, he's had a booking or whatever, he's coming off. But in a manager's eye and a coach's eye view, it's let's have a little look at Walker over there. Let's see how that works, and let's put Trent here. We needed to get another player on the pitch alongside Palmer, alongside Gordon, that could deliver something to get us a goal. That's what we were looking for. How best to do that? We saw it fit to play Trent Alexander in midfield to try and do that and unlock a pass. Now all of a sudden the team are playing slightly better. Trent coming on at right back and squeezing into that midfield area when we're in possession might be the way forward. Walker, I think Walker has to play before Trips every given time. I think there was more to that, Jim, than just we'll have a little fiddle around and rest Kieran.
But your gut feeling is that it will still be Walker on the right and Trippier on the left?
I believe so. I think the performances of Trent in midfield has probably stifled the opportunity of playing at fullback and coming in from fullback, I would personally say.
So talking of Trent leads us on to Slovakia, who we expect will attack down the left-hand side. Now they'll play pretty much a 4-1-4-1 formation. We'll get onto the centre of midfield in a moment, but they do attack down the left-hand side. We saw them play against Ukraine here in Dusseldorf a week or so ago, and they like to get the ball out of the left-hand side for the number 17, Harasil, who's an excellent attacking winger, not always a magnificent quality of delivery, but he can be quite clever, and he probably is the player that England most need to watch of the Slovakian forward line.
Yeah, without a doubt, he caught our eye straight away, and I think when we were sat in the stadium, you said he's having some game, and I had to agree with you. The good thing for us, he's bolted up against Kyle Walker, who was arguably our best one-on-one defender, so that could work in our favour rather nicely, but It was a really intriguing game. It caught my eye of how well they pressed as a team. Almost left their back four on the halfway line to deal with whoever was left up for Ukraine, whether it be a 3 or a 4 or a 5 on occasion. And they almost squeezed with a 6, quite an aggressive 6 as well, and said, well, come on then, we're going to come after the ball a little bit, which was quite good. We have got to work out when's the right time to play and when the right time is to bisect that and go beyond it for a hold-up play and then build play from behind that press.
So from what you've seen of England over this tournament and the 4 friendlies that they played in 2024, are you worried about England's ability to be able to play against a really intense press as we might see up against us on Sunday?
I think it wouldn't worry me as long as our decision making's correct. If our decision making is we're going to play out no matter what, that would worry me. I think England can be there to turn over, and when we do spread wide, we can look very vulnerable. I think the clever part of it is, come on to us if you want. We're going to start having 1 or 2 passes. It wouldn't worry me, though, if on the 3rd pass we go beyond that press and squeeze quickly and go and support play. I think that would suit us nicely if they did come on aggressively with us.
So one of the keys to that will be Lobotka, who is the one in the 4-1-4-1, the defensive midfielder. Now, against Belgium, which was a game that they won, which is the result that got them out of the group, he would push forward and would be prepared to try and almost go man-to-man with Kevin De Bruyne, but not lead the press, but he was joining in on it. And as you say, it's 2 banks of 3 effectively going forward. And he's the 6th man going in and joining that. So do England try and entice him to do that, and that will create the space to set up a 4 going forward against 4? Is that how you anticipate that Gareth will try and capitalise?
That would suit me down to the ground. So I think 1 for 1, we're the match, or certainly better than if we sustain the first hold-up play. From there we'll go. The worry for me is if they're coming with 6 after us, we're naive enough to try and play through and get caught out. If I looked at that, I would say, look, let's take the first pass, we'll take the second pass. If you can get turned, all well and good. If they're coming at us and they're aggressive, just drop it over to Harry Kane or whoever's available, and we squeeze aggressively. And can we get turned on that? There would seem to be in that game a lot of space between the lines, the back line and the front 6-ish, 2 banks of 3 trying to press. I think that suits us, but it only suits you if you identify when to draw them on and when to go beyond them.
And finally, the other key to potential success that we spotlighted watching the games was Skriniar, vastly experienced, their captain, playing at PSG. But he was at fault for both of the goals against Ukraine. And a pass between the left back, he played on the left of the 2 centre-halves, a pass between the left back to his left-hand side and him could cause problems. That's the winning Ukraine goal came that way. And if there is the opportunity for England to get bodies forward quickly and play through the press, then getting runners that Saka in off the right-hand side particularly could be absolutely integral.
Yeah, he looked very immobile. I thought he was disappointing on the ball as well. He wanted to play to his centre-half. He didn't overly want to play when he was playing out to his left back, which I bemoaned when we were watching the game, that ball had to go out to the left back and the left winger a lot quicker than it actually did, because they were fronted up with Yarmolenko on the right-hand side for the Ukraine, who didn't want to do a lot of defending, if truth be known. And their left-hand side was what was unlocking the Ukrainian backline. He didn't identify that quickly enough. And obviously on the turnover, the Ukrainians were pretty good on the turnover. They were clinical passing through the thirds, and obviously that little bit of pace with Mudryk attacking. So I think they're not great. They look very vulnerable when you do get beyond that front 6 on the press, and you can play through them, especially on the quick counter-attacks. Now they might look at England as not the same way as they do Ukraine. Maybe they've looked at Ukraine and thought, well, we're as good as them, we're coming to take you on, we're going to pressure. England might be a different matter, but I think that's why England have got to take their opportunities to get turned and go one-on-one when they get the opportunity, something I don't think we've done particularly well.
No, absolutely, and it's been very well documented that when England are playing against sides who play with a low block, and Slovakia haven't done that, play with a mid block so far, decides to play with a low block. That is where England historically have struggled. It'll be interesting to see exactly how England managed to deal with the problems that the Slovakians throw at them defensively. We're here in Dusseldorf at the moment. We'll be in Gelsenkirchen. It's only about 30-40 miles from here. We're expecting that the weather will have broken by then. It'll be very different from the hot sunshine and the shorts that we've experienced here in Dusseldorf over the last 3 or 4 days. The build-up over the course of the whole weekend, of course, on talkSPORT, but the game itself at 5. We'll be in the stadium with the build-up with Adrian Durham, award-winning Adrian Durham, from 4 o'clock, and then Stuart alongside me, and Ashley Young joining the commentary team as well. Sunday at 5. We'll catch you then.